So we're doing sensation today. Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah. Very exciting sensation and perception. Very, very exciting stuff. You're excited. I'm excited. I'm excited that you're excited. We're all excited together.
I like
Good,
perception.
good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. So, does anyone remember what a threshold was? We talked about this a little bit when we talked about neurons and toilets and action potential and how neurons are like toilets. Julian? What's the full sentence? What you need to reach for action potential to happen. It's an Devin, did I touch your hair?
No.
I touched David's hair, and like you didn't feel it, but then I hit your head or something, and you did feel it. So a certain threshold was reached. So that's what we're talking about. So we're still talking about action potential, but more of a sensation thing. Like you can't feel it, you can't smell it, unless a certain threshold has been reached. Like if I put like one little grain of salt in like a big thing of food, you're probably not going to taste the salt, even though I put salt in it. So it has to be a certain amount of stimulus for you to sense it. So ignore this first thing. It's not important. That is the idea of absolute threshold. It is enough stimulus to be sensed 50% of the time or more. Ian?
So the actual potentials are for everything, not just feeling, right?
Everything.
So
smelling, tasting, touching, hearing.
You can see a candle flicker 30 miles away. That's the threshold.
If you can see it 50% of the time or more, but people have different thresholds. Like some people, like wine connoisseurs, like they can tell the difference between different like flavors in the wine. They have a lower threshold than someone else is like, it just tastes like wine to me. Or people that have a really sensitive nose, like dogs, they require less of a stimulus to reach the threshold. While some people that have like sinus problems, they might not smell something like right in the face. It's like, don't you smell the garlic? It's like, I don't smell anything. So just enough stimulus, sound, feelings, smell, sight, whatever, enough of a stimulus for it to be seen, for you to sense it. That's the word, sensation. Wow, enough stimulus to be sensed 50% of the time or more. So if you can, okay, do they still do like hearing tests? Like the nurse's office? They put the headphones on you.
You have a tiny little beep.
Yes, and then you have to raise your hand every time that you hear the beep. And they probably do the beep like 10 times. And it's probably the same volume of the beep. And it's just like in different ears, they're just testing different ears. So if you raise your hand like 9 of the 10 times, then it has reached absolute threshold. That sound is just enough of stimulus to reach absolute threshold because you raise your hand more than 5 out of 10 times. So, of course, like it could be like, do you smell that? Like, if you walk into this room, it's like, oh, you smell the Scentsy, or it's like maybe the Scentsy is not very strong that day, and you don't smell it, or maybe it's not on. So it just depends. Of course, it depends on this theory of whether you're going to sense or not, the signal detection theory. So a signal could be a sound, it could be a smell, it could be something that you're looking for. And whether you're going to detect it or not, even though it might be right in front of your face, but you maybe not sense it, maybe you don't see it, maybe you don't smell it, taste it, touch it, feel it, because of certain things. Your experience, your like expectation of seeing it, of smelling it, of touching it, tasting it, your motivation, and your level of fatigue, how tired you are. So I tend to think of like airport security. What signal are they trying to detect? What are they trying to detect? Airport security.
Guns, bombs.
Guns, bombs, nail clippers. Like you have a bottle of shampoo that's too big. Whatever they're trying to detect, they're looking for that. Their experience level might not be too good. And maybe someone that's more experienced can tell the difference between a hairdryer in a suitcase and a gun in a suitcase. But maybe it's your first day, and you're just like,
Pistol.
Yes, everyone has pistols. Like, no, they're hairdryers. Your expectations of seeing one possibly could change based on the like airport you work for, like Houston Intercontinental.
Or like the people with blue eyes.
Right, it's like racial profiling or whatever like that. But I'm sure Houston Continental, Dallas Love, Chicago O'Hare, LAX, JFK, all those really big airports, they're expecting a terrorist threat or a bomb or whatever more than, let's say, Lubbock Intercontinental Airport. And Lubbock has an intercontinental airport because there's one flight that goes to Mexico. But it's the size, the airport's probably the size of like the cafeteria. I mean, it's the tiniest little, like, it's like one little plane.
You float on it?
Yeah, so I went to Texas Tech. So, there's like 2 people in the security line. Like, come on through. Like, there's no one there. But, so they're probably not expecting like a terrorist threat, like, anytime, ever. Their motivation, I think, for airport security for everyone, no matter where they are, it's life and death. And not just like their life and death, it's like life and death of hundreds of people. But then the level of fatigue, that's a good one. I think the big airports really failed for this because they're probably standing at their position for like 10 hours a day, waving people through. They're really tired. Maybe like leaning. So maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, my husband and I went to Hawaii for a wedding, and we like flew out of Houston Intercontinental. We landed in like Honolulu, I think, and then took like a little puddle jumper to Maui. And like I, being dumb, not realizing like in Hawaii, like there's so many things to do that I wouldn't have time. But I was like, I'm gonna take my art kit in the plane. I'm gonna like sit on the beach, like when the sun's coming up, and I'm gonna sketch, and it's gonna be a soul searching. It's gonna be really relaxing. I'm gonna really like it. So I brought my little art kit, and I didn't check it, like I did it in my carry-on. I didn't even think about it. And then when we landed in Hawaii, we had to like get on one more plane and like to go to our island. That little tiny airport that probably had 5 people working there, and probably we weren't expecting much. I don't know their level of experience. Motivation's still life and death, but their level of fatigue is probably they're not as tired as Houston. So when I got pulled aside and asked, is this 3-inch X-Acto knife with a handle, is this yours? Because I had brought it on the plane. It's a razor blade about this long with a handle. They're like, is this yours? And I'm like, oh, yes. Oh my God, I'm gonna go to jail. And they like obviously confiscated it from me. And the whole pat down. Why are you here in Hawaii? Are you whatever? Of course, there are expectations that like in Houston, that little old me would be trying to take over a plane. Maybe less.
A 3-inch X-Acto.
What?
With a 3-inch X-Acto.
If people can take over a plane with like, yeah, you can, like, people kill each other in jail with a pencil. Yeah, I mean, X-Acto knife, that can do some damage in the throat. That can kill someone. Like,
Especially no war.
You can put it in their brain and make them kill themselves with their motor cortex.
so, I also think of Titanic. Titanic, the people like in the, what is it called? It's called something.
The bridge.
No. The nest. Who said it? The nest, like at the top of the nest. And their experience, I think one of the guys, there's 2 guys up there. One of the guys, it's their very first, like, is their very first voyage. The last 2. Went too soon. Expectations. They had high expectations to see icebergs. They had been getting iceberg warnings all day long. Their motivation, once again, life and death, but their level of fatigue, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. They're probably really tired. They didn't even have the binoculars. The binoculars weren't found. Like, they brought them on board and packed them away, but no one had found them. So, whatever. Another one. I also read this the other day. Not the other day, it was like 2 years ago. But the guy, like, you're laughing, but you're about to not laugh. The guy who was responsible, like, he was in the airport, I don't know what they're called, but that box that, like, they watch all the flights come in and take off, and they're like, the control center. So the air traffic control center, like in New York, there's this guy, it was his very first day, and he's responsible for making sure all the flights are like in the right spot, whatever, coming down the right time on September 11th. It was his first day on the job. So when he saw two planes get off track and head back to New York, he did not have the experience to realize that is not what should be doing. Like, that is the opposite of what they should be going to. And so it was like 30 minutes before he said anything, because he's like, I don't think that they're supposed to be going away, but it's my first day. I don't really know. And then I'm like, maybe I should tell someone. So the guy who's responsible for watching it was his very first day on the job. I think it was also his last day. I think he quit right after I was watching a documentary, and he quit right after and became like a heavy drinker because he blamed himself for 9/11. So there's that.
It's funny because we can laugh about Titanic, but we can't laugh about
Right. Maybe in 100 years, your kids will be like, haha, terrorists. But maybe not. I don't know your kids. We have to have kids first.
What are my kids?
No.
I didn't hear what you said at all.
Said your kids are gonna be terrorists.
No.
Because I'm Jewish?
No. Okay. But what if you sense it less than 40%? Even, what if you have like a scent, a sight, a smell, a taste, a touch, a sound that you only signal, that you only see less than 50%. So less than 50% of the time. So greater than is absolute threshold, but less than, like, I hear that sound 3 out of 10 times. 30%, that's less than 50. Then it's a subliminal stimulus. Then it's a subliminal message. It's also called below threshold. If it's below threshold, then it's a subliminal message. And subliminal message doesn't have to necessarily be something that's heard. It could be like a subliminal, like, scent. Or someone touched, like when I touched David's hair and he didn't feel it, that technically was a subliminal message.
So it's through, but you just don't.
You just don't sense it. Like, if I touched his hair 10 times and he only felt it 3 out of the 10, then it would be a subliminal hair touch, which is weird. Okay, so leave him alone and answer yourself. So in 1957, there was a news article that came out that said that movie theaters have been bombarding us with subliminal messages for years. And between, like, scenes, they show like a little flash of, like, eat popcorn and, like, drink Coke and things like that. That was not true. The article made that up. That had never happened. But it got so many people thinking about subliminal messages that they're like, well, let's just test this out. So there was a Canadian news station that said, this Friday from 5 to 9 p.m. we will be having subliminal messages, and that's all they said. So watch and to see if it works. Well, all of these people that night reported, like, all of a sudden I was thirstier than I'd ever been before, and I really craved a soda. Oh, I got really hungry, and I wanted pizza all of a sudden. And people were like, oh, I just had a sudden urge to, like, hurt people. Like the rage was crazy. But all the message said was, if you can see this, call this phone number. And not a single call. Not a single person called that number all night long. Even though people reported all of these other things, no one has actually followed through what they actually messaged out, which was, like, call a certain number. No one called that number. So, people...
Liars.
Yes. People try to, like, lose weight or stop smoking with subliminal messaging. I think they did a Friends episode with Chandler, and he's trying to stop smoking, and he listens... Y'all have you seen that one?
Yeah.
Okay, where he listens to, like... But it's like woman's stop smoking, weight loss, not weight loss, smoking, like, recording that he listens to. So at the end of the episode, he's like walking like a girl, and he's got a purse, and he's like, hey guys, and he's just very feminine, and they're like, oh, it's because of the tape. And then, of course, I think he ends up still smoking at the end. But that's not how it works. So subliminal, like, tapes and things like that don't work. But they can prime you. They can prime people to react in a certain way. So it's not going to make anyone do anything that they typically wouldn't do, but it might just change your perception of certain things. So there was another experiment where they had like half the people, well, they had everyone watch just images of people's faces being flashed at them. But the experimental group, y'all had like pictures of like people, but then between the slides, really quick sudden bursts of like violence, blood, and dismembered body parts, and pictures of guns and knives. You guys had the same people's faces with the same reactions, but y'all had bursts of like puppies playing, and flowers, and rainbows, and pretty happy things. And then we had people just, tell me what you thought of those people. Oh, those people seem nice. They seem like good people. They seem like the typical like next door neighbor that could help you out. And you guys were like, they were kind of shady. Don't really trust them. They look kind of off. I don't really like the way that they look.
Serial killers, like, I want to kill them.
No. That's not going to make anyone do anything, but to just prime you to be in like a scared. Yes, it changes perception. So there, who was it? Do you know Christopher Nolan, the director? He directed like Batman Begins, and he directed Inception and things like that. So in, I think Inception, the movie, like the score of Inception is like you remember that? Do you remember? It was like really deep bass sounds, and it was like. Did anyone see Inception?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, had those sounds.
Okay.
Dreaming
The sound, yes, the soundtrack of it, but underneath, like before you can even realize it, they had the sound of, like they slowed down the sound of a baby screaming. I think it's an Interception. I think it's Inception. It might be another Christopher Nolan movie, but I'm pretty sure it's that one. And they slowed down the sounds of a baby screaming, so it would put people on edge. It just raises the intensity. Like you don't hear it, you hear the brrr, but like underneath all that, really quietly, it's a sound that instinctually makes us uneasy. Because instinctually we want to protect our young, and so when they're screaming, it's like, so it raises the anxiety and the anticipation of something's about to happen, and so you kind of feel like on edge with that music because it primes you to feel that way. Okay, unfortunately, so I don't get kicked off YouTube, I'm going to show a video clip. But if you would like to see this video clip, people online, just Google Disney movie subliminal messaging. I'm sure you can find the link. But the rest of you in class, I'm just going to quickly pause this. Disney movie, not the Disney movie, the Little Mermaid movie, if you have the original copy of the Disney VHS where it has the, what's it called? Like the phallic symbol, the penis that's on the cover. That cover goes for like $100 because it's like a collectible thing now because they've since changed it. They had like a very penis looking tower on the front, and now it's more like pointy and less like whatever. So we're gonna, maybe if we have time, probably not, but does subliminal messaging work? Basically no. It just primes you to like maybe react in a certain way, but nothing that you wouldn't do on your own. Of course, there's another threshold. So we had absolute threshold. We also have something called the difference threshold, also called the just noticeable difference, or JND. So this is, now I've taken a stimulus, I've taken a sound, I've taken a touch, I've taken a sight, and I've changed it. Will you notice that I've changed it? Will you notice that I changed it? So here's the technical, I don't know what that is. This is the definition. The minimum difference that a person can detect between two stimuli 50% of the time. So, Caleb, need you to hold your hands out. But don't have your hand be supported by the desk. Like have it like out, together. Okay, I'm going to put a pebble in your hand and you tell me when you feel the pebble. Okay, she felt it. The very first thing, it wasn't there, now it's there, so absolute threshold has been reached. So now I'm going to put in more pebbles, and she's going to tell me when she feels the change of weight, when she actually feels that she's holding a heavier amount of pebbles. Technically, it's heavier every single time, but she's not going to feel the heaviness change every single time. That feels a little heavier. Okay, so it took, I got it takes about like 7 more pebbles for me to add before she feels that there's been a difference. Yes, it's got heavier as soon as I added the second pebble in, but she's not going to feel it right away. So kind of think of, well, like you get in a hot tub, and maybe it's just turning on, and you get in the hot tub and you feel that it's hot, like, whew, and that's absolute threshold. You can feel the temperature of the water, but then it goes from like 98 degrees to 99 degrees, 99 to 100, 100 to 101, and then you're like, all of a sudden you're like, whew, it's really hot in here. Now I can feel that it's gotten hotter. It's been getting hotter the whole time because the heater is heating up the water constantly. But eventually you do feel a difference. So those of you that have 20/20 vision, that's great for you. Those of you that do not have 20/20 vision and you've been to the eye doctor, the first thing, do you see the E? Yes, you can see the E. That is absolute threshold. The difference threshold is now comparing two different things to see if you know the difference. So, like this thing, they put in front of your face, and they change the lenses, and what do they always say? 1 or 2? 2 or 3? 3 or 4? Oh, I didn't see the difference in that one. Okay, 3 or 4? They look the same to me. Oh, they look the same. They can't possibly be the same. They're not going to ask you about the same two things. So that must be below your difference threshold. If you can't tell the difference between two different things, that is below your difference threshold. If you can, then difference threshold has been reached. So can you see the E? That's absolute. Can you tell the difference between this lens and this lens? Then that's difference threshold. So, but it's not about the change. It's about the percent of change, and that's what Weber's law is saying. The difference threshold is not about the amount change. It's about the percent change. 2 plus 4. That delta means change. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to give you some time to think about it and talk about people next to you, and then I want you to, and we're going to take a vote. Here's size 16 girl, and here's size 4 girl. Honestly, I don't think she's a 4. She's probably a 2, maybe a 0. She's tiny. We're going to say that she's girl A and she is girl B. If they both lost 5 pounds, that's what I want you to think about. I don't want you to verbalize, just yet. If they both lost 5 pounds, which one would you notice more on? If girl 16, size, like number A, don't say anything, letter A, lost 5 pounds versus girl B lost 5 pounds, who would you notice it on more? So turn to someone next to you and talk about who do you think would notice more if they lost 5 pounds.
I feel like she get all of a sudden really she's like 95 pounds.
I did. I already said like. Okay, raise your hand if you think girl A. If girl A lost 5 pounds, you would definitely notice a difference. Girl B. One person say girl A. Girl B. Okay. It's not about the amount change, it's about the percent change. If girl B lost 5 pounds, she's like losing 50% of her body weight. She's like a tiny thing. But if girl A lost 5 pounds, she's losing like 1% of her body weight. She's, curvy. She's got some more curves. So, like, who do you notice haircuts on more? Boys or girls?
Boys.
Boys. When a boy gets their hair cut, everyone notices right away. Because, like, if they get an inch off their hair, that's like half their hair gone. But if, like, a girl gets an inch taken off her hair, no one notices. Because it's an inch and she's got, of course, stereotypical, like, girls have longer hair and boys have shorter hair. But longer hair people, they would have to cut off the same percentage. So let's say, Brett, how many inches did you cut off? A lot? Okay. Well, maybe you're a bad example. Like, okay.
It started here and ended here.
Okay. possibly like 8 inches to a foot. somewhere in this range. Okay. Well, never mind. A bad example. But let's say that as soon as she loses 2% of her body weight, and you're like, wow, you've really lost weight, it would take her to lose 2% as well of her body weight before you noticed. So it's not about the amount change, it's about the percent change. So like if a new car goes up by 50 cents, no one cares. If a candy bar goes up by 50 cents, that is a huge price change. And that's when you're going to notice a difference. I had one more thing to say, but I don't remember. So, okay, on Google Classroom. Get to Google Classroom now. There's nothing on there yet, but as soon as you get there, there will be something. Like, I want to see if I can beat you there. First period has something.
I don't see anything
Okay.
there.
Oh my God. Right. Okay, fine. Just give me a second. Calm down.
This tastes delicious.
Period. I'm adding an assignment. It's going to be from my drive, from the recent. It's right here, right there. Click it. Add title, threshold, holds. Oh God. It's hard. This thing doesn't work. Assign. Okay. If you open it up, it's if you just refresh your screen, it should be there. Crossing threshold. I'm gonna have it on the screen as well because I know some of you are like, I don't have 30% on battery. So whatever. So on all of these 8 scenarios, you have to determine, is this an example of absolute threshold being reached? Like this is the first time that I've sensed this. Why is this not working? Is this absolute threshold that is being reached? Is this like the threshold has changed? I'm trying to find a difference. I can tell the difference between these two. Is it a different threshold or is it a subliminal message? So I just want you to like number 1 through 8 on your paper. And your notes on the side, just off the side, on a scratch sheet, or in your notes, whatever you want, 1 through 8. We're going to do one of them together. We're not going to do number 1 because it's super easy. We're going to do number 2. And then you guys can work in pairs around you to figure out the other. So, on number 2, we're going to do that one. A sentry on night duty notices a very small noise and calls out for the thief to halt. So the sentry on night duty notices a very small noise and tells the thief, halt. That small noise, is that an example of absolute difference or subliminal?
Absolute.
Why do you say absolute?
There's no other thing.
There's no other thing to compare it to. It's not like there's a whole bunch of small noises and then this small noise is different. It's like that's bigger small noise is a thief. So that one is just absolute. He's noticing it for the first time. So, and people around you can work by yourself. You can work with people around you. The question on the board is also on your phone. Do the other 7. Is it absolute? Is it different? Or is it subliminal?
So those words right next to you, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Okay.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, we're reading that secret book in English where that's what they do to the people.
Oh,
So it says,
right. Well, hold on. I'm going to pause this really quick so I don't see something.